Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the FetchQuest podcast, where we talk about video games and more. I am your host, Guy, joined by my fellow co-host, Connor,
Hello.
Brewer,
Hey.
and Liam.
Hi.
So, guys, starting off the episode today, how's everyone going?
It's been okay today. Spent some time doing God of War's post game. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I have started playing Persona 3 Reload, and it's pretty good so far, I gotta say.
Fuck! God damn it! Fuck you!
Hey, Connor, you good, dog?
Sorry, it's just this boss is such a pain in the ass!
Whoa. We already had a little bit of swearing in the beginning. We don't want Susan getting on us. We gotta keep it PG for a little bit before we get demonetized.
Demonetized? We don't even get monetized. What are you talking about?
True.
Oh my god, I can't help it, man. This boss is just such a freaking... Oh my god.
Whatever boss he's fighting, it seems to be pretty difficult. I wonder which one he's fighting.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Well, that brings
Wow,
us...
Connor, taking it out on your friends. I see how it is.
Yeah, always. That's the answer for everything in life.
Well, guys, that brings us to today's topic. Video game difficulty. What is it? Why is it important in playing video games? And what are our views on difficulty in the gaming scene? So, boys, I guess I will begin the episode with a starting question. What is the easiest and the hardest game we have ever played? I'll go first. The hardest game I think I have ever played is Bloodborne, which is also one of my favorite games. And I think the easiest game I think I have ever played is Pokemon Sword.
I'll go next. I think by far the hardest game I have ever played has been Elden Ring. Because it was really my first experience with the Souls-like, and so, you know, they don't lie about it being like super hard, so it was definitely like an adjustment getting used to that difficulty. And the easiest, I'm probably gonna say, honestly, yeah, like some modern Pokemon game, like Pokemon Shield, Pokemon Scarlet.
Yeah. What about
Alright.
Brewer? Liam, what about y'all?
I personally, hardest game I think I've ever played was getting over it with Bennett Foddy.
Oh, God.
That game changed me, not in a good
Why would
way.
you even want to play that?
I don't know. But the easiest game I've ever played, probably Animal Crossing.
Oh yeah.
That's actually
I mean, it's kind of...
that's a
I kind of find it
difficult...
hard to put that in a difficulty thing, because, like, is it even meant to, like, have difficulty at all?
Well, that's the thing.
Some would-
It has
some
no
would say-
difficulty.
It
Knowing
feels
the
like a
challenge of
divide
that
by
game is
zero
quite
question.
Exactly.
Some would say knowing the challenge of that game can be quite difficult.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ignore you on that one.
I'm out
You
here
know-
on Saturdays.
I think it's probably one of the most difficult games because you have to pay off, you know, your debt collector, Tom Nook.
I love capitalism.
Let's
Brewer, what
see.
about you?
I would want to maybe say Elden Ring, but I haven't fully beat that yet. So I think Cuphead. That was a pretty hard one.
Ooh, that is a hard game.
I mean, it's not as hard as the game journalists were making it out to be. Especially you, Dean Takahashi.
Never forget the day someone couldn't make it past the tutorial in Cuphead.
Yeah, when the 5-year-old was getting better results for the most part.
That is honestly one of the peak moments of gaming journalism. Like, I think the second place one is the exaggerated swagger of a black teenager.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, gaming journalism is something else. You know, personally,
But,
if I was to make my whole profession about like being a journalist for video games, I think I would play them more, but you know, just me talking, you know.
Game journalists play a game they talk about challenge, impossible.
True. Brewer, what's
Oh.
the easiest game you've played?
Fuck, that's hard. Like I'd want to say a Pokemon game, but also maybe like a Kirby game, like Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Yeah, But I
Yeah,
mean,
Kirby's pretty easy.
I feel like in all fairness, they're supposed to be easy.
Like Lego Star Wars, but I mean, some of those games are like kind of meant to be.
Don't hate on the goats.
Hey,
It's
being
easy for me
easy
to think
doesn't
about the
mean
hard
bad.
ones. It's hard for me to think about the easy ones.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
I think that's also like a pretty important part of the conversation of like how difficulty helps with, remembering so like games, because like you're, at least in my experience, you're gonna remember a hard boss or a hard game a lot more than you are like an easy boss. Like for
That
example,
is that is true.
I always remember the, final boss of any RPG because of its difficulty, and like very few times, you remember like the tutorial boss or like some other boss that was super easy within the game.
Yeah. I mean, it does help with the final boss, especially in RPGs. They usually have a lot of build up and they're like God or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
One thing I want to talk about before we like get into the meat of everything. When we think a game is like high difficulty or low difficulty, we mostly mean that like throughout the game's experience, it consistently challenged us in different ways, and that level of challenge determines like the game's difficulty in our opinion.
Yeah, I think just really quickly before we get on to like specific examples, I also want to ask you all like what difficulty do you start at in a video game whenever you do a first playthrough?
That's actually a really good question because that'll reveal a lot about how we play games.
I can go first if you guys want some
Go
time to
for it.
think about that.
Yeah, go
I
for it, honestly.
Personally, for me, whenever I do a first playthrough of any game, if I'm given the option, then I will always go on the normal difficulty because, in my opinion, there's no proof behind it. It's just my opinion that I believe that the normal difficulty is how a game is intended to be played because because it's not increasing any difficulty or making stuff easier for the player. So
Yeah,
I've always firmly believed that normal is the intended way to play the game.
I would
that's
kind of
fair.
agree with you on that, Connor. For the most part, when I start up a game, like I definitely want some challenge. So like if it's a series I'm familiar with, I'm gonna choose a harder difficulty. Or if it's a type of game that I've played a lot of, maybe I'll choose a higher difficulty. But for the most part, I try to go with the developer recommended experiences for the first one. That, or I'll also look up online like what's the most balanced experience to where like I'm not gonna be spending hours on a boss because it had some bullshit damage slider or something.
Yeah.
But also like I'm not just cakewalk. It's not a cakewalk. I'm not just breezing through everything in one hit. Oh, I want that perfect blend.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's normally for like RPGs. Like, I'm playing through P3R right now, and I'm playing that on normal, even though I know both of you are. I'm pretty sure are playing it on Merciless.
I'm playing it on hard. I would have swapped to merciless because hard is way too easy. But unfortunately, merciless is if you don't choose it at the beginning, then you can't go to it.
Gotcha.
Before we get into the topic of like Persona 3, I do want everyone else to answer the questions about like what is the intended, or not the intended, the difficulty that they typically go for first.
For me, it is almost always on hard, or if the like it doesn't seem too crazy, like Resident Evil has a very, very different type of hard mode, so I don't do that, but I go for either hard or hardest just because most of the time I like seeing what the game has to offer in terms of difficulty, even if it is just sliders.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
That's fair.
What about you, bro?
I just mentioned mine.
Oh, my bad, my bad. You did. I'm stupid. Um, for me at
Guy
least,
having difficulty remembering.
true.
This is the signs of guys' early onset dementia.
Dog, I'm only 20. There's no way.
Exactly.
But
Or are you? Maybe you've forgotten your true age and you're actually 55.
dude, if I'm that old and like having dementia thinking I'm 20 years old, like it's actually over for me. Like holy hell.
It's Jover.
It's Jover for me. But
Actually,
back,
higher.
but back to the back to what I was saying. With difficulty, I usually start on the normal difficulty or hard. The reason, like my reasoning for this is pretty similar to Brewers. I'll typically go for the harder difficulties if it is a series I'm familiar with. Mentioning P3 Reload earlier, I'm going on Merciless as my first playthrough, just because I've played Persona 5 like 4 times, and I've played P4 Golden recently, so like I'm very well aware of the combat
Yeah,
in the games.
yeah, the mechanics and whatnot.
Yeah, so I know what I'm doing, but typically I'll only go for a hard mode if I'm familiar with it, but I do love going for the normal mode because I love getting that developer experience. Though not the developer experience, the developer's intent, which kind of leads me into like I want to talk about games that I think do it very well, like the intended difficulty. I think the best example of a standard difficulty is 2018's God of War.
Oh yeah, no, that one I really enjoyed. I felt like I was given a fair amount of challenge in that one.
It's a
Yes.
fair amount of challenge, and also like you have the equal amount of pacing of getting new stuff that you get for your combat, well, just the combat in general, and the enemies evolve with you, which I think is a great thing in the game.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great example. Other examples I would say are probably Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Bloodborne onward for the Souls games for like
Hmm.
intended difficulty.
I would agree.
Nah, bro, it's about Dark Souls 2 getting smart enemy placement. Nah, you're getting jumped.
I'll talk about that later about like just cruel difficulty, but like I have my fair share of issues with Dark Souls 2, but I want to hear y'all's like opinions on like what should a standard difficulty be, because I am of the opinion that to be properly engaged with the combat of a video game, you need to have new challenges that test the player all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They
I
don't
mean,
need to be like they don't need to be balls to the wall, like insanely difficult. I just think that you need to throw new stuff out there that forces the player to think. What do y'all think about that?
I think a good example of how not to do it, Kingdom Hearts 3, where you get all this cool new stuff, but the best way to play the game is to go and
Match
just
the X button.
mash one button, and that is how you win. But then, like a good game would be like a God of War or like a Resident Evil, where like you can't just use one thing and like win. You actually have to like think about like either your resources, or like you have to use combos to do stuff, or like you use different abilities, resources, weapons, whatever it is, in order to deal with things. Because I mean, it's a video game after all. You're not playing to like just get an easy win. You want to play to like do something interesting.
Yeah, I think games with the best balance should aim to like not just like, their damage sliders are all set in place good to where I'm not screaming or I'm not cakewalking everything. It also goes to the mechanics, like Liam was saying. I think like you should give me different tools, but you shouldn't make one so blatantly better than the other ones that I'm just gonna completely ignore the other ones, because while the other ones may be fun, if I'm struggling with a boss because the other ones aren't balanced out well, I may just not want to use them. I'm gonna go mash the X button or triangle in that instance,
What's the
because
point? Yeah, you first. I'm sorry.
oh yeah, just because the other one is so much more overpowered.
What's the
That
point
or
of
just like
trying
giving me
something?
tools that don't really fit the level very well.
Yeah, and that's perfect for what I was about to say. What's the point of trying something new when the thing that I'm working with is working? You know
if
what
it
I
ain't
mean?
broke, don't fix it.
I think the if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality when it comes to like specific ways of play in video games is very flawed. And this is what I mean by this. In God of War, again, perfect use of the standard difficulty. the game has enemies that are immune to some of the weapon types. So, because of that, you are forced to switch to other weapons to deal with those weapons effectively. Now, an idiot would say that this is stupid because the game is preventing you from playing the way you want, which is just incorrect. But the point of it is to have you try out new things so that you can fit a better playstyle while also experiencing most of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
I think it obviously depends on the type of game, but I generally do agree with that mindset of, because if one thing, in my opinion, if one thing becomes, the overpowered, this is what you use to win option, it becomes stale. And this applies to, really, in my opinion, any game. It applies to, Dark Souls games. It can apply to like shooters, like, if there's a gun in the game that's like
Uh,
super overpowered and broken and everyone uses it, then the gameplay can become stale because you only see that weapon everywhere.
I think a good example of that is for Elden Ring, and when the game first came out, the weapon, the Rivers of Blood, because that weapon was extremely overtuned for a single player game where the what most people would consider the hardest boss in the game, Melania, just didn't get to play if you use the Rivers of Blood, and it's just like there's no challenge in just pressing the left trigger and just winning because you get like an arbitrary like thing, and then they like because you get the best
Because it basically
status
removes any of
effect
the
in the
challenge of the
game, and then it
boss.
does a lot of damage and it's fast. Yep, removes any challenge, and then boom, all of the challenge of what is supposed to be a game that is supposed to test your perseverance and uh, human indomitable human spirit just gets thrown out the window because hey, I can press one button and win, and that just removes fun out of games. Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
think
Like, yeah, go on, Connor.
I was gonna say another example I think of this is actually like Breath of the Wild and its durability system, which I know is controversial, but I actually really like how the durability system works in Breath of the Wild. Not so much Tears of the Kingdom, because in Tears of the Kingdom it feels like things just break really fast. But in Breath of the Wild, at least, if you had one of the like super over like really good weapons that had like 70 damage and it never broke, then you would have no challenge at all in the game because you would just be doing like you would basically be close to one-shotting most enemies if you were able to time the like flurry rush correctly.
That's what Breath of the Wild actually does the same thing that I was talking about with God of War earlier, is that it forces you to try new things.
Exactly. That's another thing I really like about the
Yeah,
game.
I think that's what I'd always disagree with. Like the durability should be removed thing, because like, yeah, it's annoying, but like things are supposed to be annoying at some points to give you a like greater joy and high later on
Yeah.
when
I
you
think
overcome that annoyance.
Yeah, I think if you have a game where you're able to choose multiple different weapons and stuff like that, there needs to be a durability system because then it's
Yeah,
just going to become way too broken. Like obviously, um, like in
I
Horizon.
don't necessarily agree that it needs to be a durability system. I just think there needs to be a system in place, but a durability system will not always work.
Well, I
Yeah,
think it maybe depends on like how varied your weapons are,
yeah.
but
For
I
example,
think with enough variation and enough like different enemy types that like makes that variation useful and not just like, oh, this one is just gonna stab the same enemy in the same way, because I think enemy design is gonna be a big factor and the difficulty as well, to where it just doesn't feel like all my options are doing the same thing against it. That's very important.
yeah, I think like to go into enemy design when we're talking about difficulty, a great game that does that well, in my opinion, is Hollow Knight. In the ways you have to defeat certain enemies with certain like strategies and stuff like that.
I
A good
agree.
example, a good example is in, I believe, the City of Tears area, which this isn't a spoiler. It's a area you can find pretty pretty early on in the game. There are these enemies that have these shields, and um they'll have like these giant swords. And for most of the game, you're used to just walking up to an enemy and immediately like slashing at it and killing it, which is how, a decent amount of the enemies are in the game go. But with these guys, you have to, actually think and play smart, because you have to bait them into striking a certain area, and then you dodging or flanking around them in order to hit them, and keep doing that, which it really, at least for me, it caught me off guard, because it's like, I don't, you know this isn't what I'm used to, but I appreciated it because the game was, as I said before, it was actually making me think. And I think Hollow Knight is like a God of War game where it does standard difficulty really well with both its bosses and just standard enemies.
I agree on that because like the game is very brutally difficult. Like Hollow Knight is a very hard game, but
Yeah,
but what you
Bug souls, basically.
it
let's
it's
not talk
yeah.
about the pantheon of Hollow Nest, please. I don't want war
Oh God,
flashbacks.
please no.
If
But
I beat that, I think I should get like a Nobel Peace Prize if I ever beat that.
POV, you're a masochist.
no,
Real.
Connor, if you beat that, I will give you a hand job.
Oh, I'm gonna start grinding it immediately.
All right.
Okay, that's going in my notepad as sus things, Gaia said.
Don't worry, it'll never happen.
No.
Connor decides to lock in for
I'm about to. I'm literally about to become that
Don't
lock-in.
lock in.
I'm literally about to become the lock-in gif.
I hope he locks. I hope you don't lock in for that because I might have just set myself up for failure.
Connor's about to strap himself down to a chair, get like a 10-liter of Baja Blast and the gold-plated controller, and just keep playing until he beats that thing.
I
I
am
might
not
be
going to leave my
fucked.
room in a week, and when I do eventually leave it, I'm expecting a hand job.
I might be fucked, everyone.
Guy,
But,
you dug your own grave.
Quite literally, yes, you may be fucked.
What's up, Liam?
You've dug your own grave.
I did. But yeah, going back into Hollow Knight, it does a very, very good job of just like constantly progressing you with new abilities for you to travel to new places and do different attacks, while also forcing you to like approach enemies in a different way from the last. I think the bosses do a very good job of this. In the beginning, they become like ones that are on the ground, then eventually some fly, and then they have projectiles, and it does such a good job of making you use your tools to your advantage in new ways, and it's a great game to play just for that reason alone. There's a whole other slew of reasons why I love Hollow Knight, but that's just one of
We
them.
should do a Hollow Knight episode soon. I really want to
That would
talk
be
about.
awesome. That would
We
be
can
awesome.
talk about how excited we are for the release date of Silksong.
Dude, I can't believe they revealed the release date for Silksong and to be December 14th, 2069.
Exactly.
Dude, real.
Well,
But,
I thought it was gonna be a lot sooner. I thought it was gonna be 2067.
Yeah, they delayed it.
Ah, damn, that sucks.
Jeez. Now, I know Liam already mentioned this with Kingdom Hearts 3, but like, what are some games? I want to like talk about some games that do difficulty really poorly, and I have two examples. I actually have three examples with me that
Wait. Before we say anything, who's gonna be the first one to shit on Pokemon for difficulty? I just want to know.
I want to talk
will let
about.
you all do that.
I want to talk about another game, but I think we can all collectively come together to shit on modern Pokemon.
Because I was about to say, I know damn well this is that's getting brought up.
I have two examples then. First one, I'll get out of the way really quickly because genuinely some of my favorite games ever. So it hates that like these are a genuine flaw of them. But the modern Persona games have a bit of a problem where you're given a lot of tools to play the game, which, don't get me wrong, it makes the game a lot of fun because you can experiment with so much new stuff. But the problem with it is that the enemies are not able to keep up in terms of this. If anything,
I think that goes back to the thing I said. Oh, sorry.
If anything, the
I,
real you first.
I was just gonna say, I think that goes back to the thing I was mentioning, where like you want to give them enough tools that are varied enough, but you gotta like make sure the enemies are tuned to that, so it's not gonna feel the same. Because with modern Persona, I feel like I can make a bunch of cool different kits with all the traits and whatnot they're giving me to make new personas. But then when Scrimblow Jimblow was standing in front of me, and that's the only new enemy I can fight, it doesn't really feel like I'm gonna be challenged by anything. I have this like I have Lucifer on my team, but I have nothing to stand up against him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that also plays into specifically Persona 5 Royal, and how they decided to implement free DLC Persona, and those DLC Persona also happen to be the best Persona in the entire game, and you can get them at level 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It
that's a
just kind of
genuine
That's
problem
a
with
whole
5.
other
it
that's a whole other
breaks it,
conversation, because that goes into Atlas's shitty DLC practices.
No,
Like
but
Jesus Christ.
my whole thing with it is it breaks the difficulty like type of progression for new players who may not know that it's not like a good thing, and just see a myriad of truths and just go, ooh, that looks like a good move, I'm gonna use that, and then just kill everything immediately every single time and remove any fun challenging aspects of the game.
Yeah. I Persona 5, I think at least does have that problem of, as Brewer and Guy were saying, of giving the player too many resources because of how the confidant system works. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the confidant system and that you get benefits for progressing your,
Well, no. It wasn't a confidant system. It was like everything else with how busted you can make your personas.
oh,
It's a
I
combination of a lot of things.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because if you, for example, if you max out a certain confidant, I'm not going to say who because Liam is still playing through P5R right now, but if you max them out, then you can get the ability to switch like everyone in your party out freely on any turn.
Yep, I have that.
Okay. And that's a really good resource, but if you couple it with the fact that you can sometimes use your grappling hook as a way to ambush people, you can get uh boosted damage with certain like weapons or tools, and
You could have
not
your
even
you first.
no, you say what you were going to say first.
You could have your first physical or magic attack have a multiplier of 2.5 times damage on your first turn.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dr. Maruki.
Thank you, Dr. Maruki. For context, he's my
You-
favorite video game character ever, but holy shit, he is so broken in that game.
Let's not like
Um,
that. You didn't even bring up detox and how you can just flat out ignore status effects sometimes.
oh yeah, he gets rid of a component of the game. He does.
Yeah,
Well, status effects are kind of iffy in all Persona games, because like
They're
they're
best in 5,
any
for
of the
sure.
characters that are built around like ailments like Mitsuru in Persona 3, I automatically don't want to use as much, because like the bosses can't be affected by ailments, which some of them are fair, like Charm, which they wouldn't attack at all, so like that's fair enough. But like, why can't I poison the boss but it can poison me?
Or put the boss to sleep.
Or
Oh,
like
exactly,
do
that's a good
literally
one.
any of my ailments against the boss. Why can I only use it against like just regular enemies, and even then it's kind of shitty?
I mean, it depends on the game personally, because like I think status effects in 5 are done very well with the
yeah, same
technical
here.
system. But
Well, I'd say status effects and especially Royal were like way overtuned, because it was super easy to like get a random status effect on a strong enemy and then just like get a technical to automatically kill them.
no, that's fair.
I think we should I do
move
think we
on.
should move away from Persona though, even though it
Yeah,
is a
that's
very based game.
it is. Again, Persona, I'm not gonna say it's in my top 10 officially, but it's getting there. I'm playing through for Persona 3 Reload. I've played through P4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal is my favorite game of all time. Just because we're criticizing them does not mean I think these are not amazing games. Like, genuinely, some of the biggest flaw with these games are the difficulty, and that's really it. But
Yeah. Was another issue is we've also played way too much Persona, so
Yeah.
there could also be our issue with difficulty.
It's
True.
like watching. It's like having a favorite movie and you watch it all the time, and then when you're watching it, you like critique all the small things in it because you've just seen it so many times.
Oh, that's fair. There's
Um,
there's another game I wanted to bring up very quickly that I think does difficulty very poorly. Um, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It is this this
all
goes
right.
more into it.
We
What's
gotta,
up?
we gotta, we gotta change the sign. Days since Guy has shit on Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Move it back to 0.
I will say, as much as I love the Xenoblade games, their balancing does feel a little whack at times. Where
They
like in
haven't,
2,
yeah.
there were some battles that like I completely just went off and forgot about them like for a while to just do side quests because like they had bullshit debuffs or something that made the fights feel impossible. And then there was 3 where I purposely had to try to not level myself up because the game was giving me too much damn XP.
Yeah, I think those games have a very bad problem with XP. So this goes
Yeah,
for
1
this is
wasn't as bad, but I guess it was still either like you go against like a main story boss, you were either way too overpowered or you were getting your ass beaten to the ground. There is no in between.
I think Xenoblade 1 does it the best. I was never over leveled, and I had like a decent challenge throughout my first playthrough.
Yeah,
I think
well, I
I
think too.
think Xenoblade 1 has good standard difficulty.
I think Xenoblade 1 is the like best balance, but I think that is also because like it was the first game, so it has the least tools out of the other ones. And you have the least resource manage it, I think, compared to like 2 where you have like all the different blades to worry about. And then
Yeah.
3 where you have all the damn 7 different characters on screen and 6 of them whose classes you're gonna choose, along with a hero you're gonna choose, along with
It's a
whatever
lot.
the hell else you equipped.
Yeah. The main thing I wanted to talk about, though, this kind of goes for like this is just a big thing to avoid with RPGs that I hate that I'm seeing more and more often. What Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade 3 struggle with a lot is the introduction of bonus experience. So, what do I mean by this? This is a mechanic. I'm pretty sure that's just in these 2 games so far, but there might be others with similar systems. But how it works is that the game Final Fantasy 15 does this. Conveniently, that's also one of the worst games in the Final Fantasy series. The problem with bonus experience is that it is a system that when you beat bosses or just normal enemies, there will be a backup storage of experience that you don't have access to yet that is just there. It will be there, and the more you fight enemies, the more it'll stack up. Depending on how you defeat the enemies, you will get more bonus experience that goes into your vault. The problem with bonus experience is that it doesn't balance itself around the experience you gain by normal battling. The normal battling experience is, I would say, it's standard. It gets you in the right place where you need to be in terms of difficulty. But the problem with bonus experience is that when you go to camp and you sleep, you're able to apply it to yourself. And the problem with this is that you get so over leveled because you have thousands upon thousands of experience that you can just give yourself for free by playing the game, which I think is just a horrible mechanic, to which I do not know why they added it into the game.
Well,
This
I
goes for
always
both
just found
Xenoblade.
it really I found it really weird too. Any game that has like the bonus experience system, like I feel like if you're giving me experience, like first off, why isn't it just already being applied? Like it feels kind of weird that it's like its own separate experience pool that I got to go to a separate location and to put in. So like
Yeah.
that in itself always felt really weird to me. I'm like, why not just give me it?
Now, for clarity's sakes, this is not like getting a bonus experience from like putting on a passive skill that like gives you 10 plus bonus, like 10 plus experience from battles. There's just a separate pool of experience that is like 5 levels worth of experience that is just in the bank for you that you can apply any time to make yourself overpowered. And like Brewer said, like why is it just not in with your normal experience?
it just feels like such an odd system. Like if I do the side quest and it gives me extra experience, why not just automatically give me the experience?
Yeah,
I feel
it
like
just
part of the answer is because like the experience is really overtuned, so it over levels you. But on the same time, that gives me the question of like, why not just turn the experience points you get for the side quest down?
I agree, and
Either
it's
that,
just
or I feel like some of those difficulty spikes that I mentioned with like bosses with bullshit debuffs or something. Like maybe that's why the camp system is the way it is, to where like I can level up a bunch by doing a couple side quests before I go back to that bullshit boss, and then not have as difficult of a time. I don't know. It's a
yeah,
weird
but
system.
but there's no point in doing that because you can just have that in your base experience. But even then, like if you don't use any bonus experience for that game and you get to the final boss, the final boss typically for those games you should be around level 70. You can make yourself around level 85 or 86, which is 10 to 15 levels above the intended experience, which just makes you plow through the final boss like it's nothing. And it's
Yeah.
poor design. It's poor
Like I said
design.
with Xenoblade bosses, you were either way too overleveled or too strong, or you're gonna get curb stomped. No in between.
That's for 2 and 3 at least. 1 does a pretty good job with
Nah,
balance,
even
in my
one,
opinion.
I'd argue it's not as bad, but the final boss of one, the experience, the general consensus is you're either having the easiest time of your life topple locking that bitch, or yeah, you're getting curb stomped.
Yo, do you cut off for y'all?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, are you back, bro? Are you back?
I've been back.
You cut out.
God damn it.
Connor, what's the time?
It is. Um, it's at 37 minutes now.
37 minutes.
That's
Good,
kind of
good,
got. God fuck. That's gonna be hard to get back in on though, because that was just kind of a rant between me and you on that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. We'll conclude it with like the Zanza stuff, but you were talking about final boss of Xenoblade 1. 3, 2.
Yeah, I'd kind of say with like the final boss of one, it isn't as bad, but it's still either you're curb stomping it and topple locking that bitch, or you're getting curb stomped yourself. There was really no in between. That's a general consensus I've seen with the Xenoblade One community.
Yeah. Bringing things away from Xenoblade for a minute. All right, it's time. It is time for us to beat the dead
Wait,
horse.
wait.
The infamous one.
Before we beat the dead horse, can I talk about something else?
What is
What
it?
is it?
This isn't. It's gonna be short, but this is not specifically a game, but more so a mode, similar to P5R's Merciless mode. Breath of the Wild's Master mode is bad difficulty in my opinion because it is very artificial difficulty. It does
I would agree with you. I never wanted to do the master mode.
as
And
Yeah,
for
somebody.
how
master
much
mode
they hyped it
sucks.
up in the trailers, it was ass.
Yeah.
It
So for
sucks.
those who don't know, Breath of the Wild's Master mode is a DLC mode
You have
that
to pay
is.
money for it.
Yep, you have to pay money for it, and it sort of markets itself as a harder version of the game, but it's not. It's just an artificial difficulty mode, basically. What happens is that the game introduces these new enemies called the golden enemies, which have like insane amounts of health, but they don't get extra attacks. They don't get any, things like that. They just deal a lot more damage and they have a lot more health, which is just artificial difficulties at its core. And every enemy, if you don't kill them, can regen their health. So it essentially becomes a, instead of, trying to strategically think of how can I beat this enemy, it becomes how fast can I kill this enemy. And so it just becomes really unfun and a slog to go through the game because you're constantly having to fight golden enemies and
Yeah, silver enemies are already really tanky, so
yeah,
like making them even tankier. But then also, if you aren't speed running to kill them, they regenerate.
yeah,
It's just ass. Like they were hyping up that golden Lionel so much in the trailers, and it was even in the artwork for the expansion pass, just for it to be like again a reskinned silver Lionel that regenerates HP. Like you couldn't have added a couple new attack patterns for something you're making me pay extra for.
Yeah, it's really bad. But now we can finally beat the dead horse.
Yeah, I kind of want to make this quick because everyone knows this, but it's just an example of really bad difficulty. Modern Pokemon has a bad problem of making the games way too easy and not engaging.
Yes, I know we all want to jump on Pokemon Sword, but a quick thing to diverge to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is the fact that in an open world game where you can basically go anywhere, there's no level scaling. So you can go and beat the boss, that the gym leader that's all the way in the mountains, that's at level, like, I think around,
60.
yeah, somewhere around there, and then immediately go and challenge the bug gym leader at the start of the game that has level like 10 Pokemon, and they will not scale at all. Their teams will not change. It really boggles me as to how they fumbled so hard, because I legit think that if, besides all the performance issues, if that game had like proper level scaling, then it would have been pretty good. But
Yeah, because like it's very clear that it could be done. Because like at the end of the game, post game content, you refight the gym leaders and they have scaled up teams. So like, why couldn't they have just done that for like the whole game?
exactly,
Laziness. It's pure laziness.
yeah,
Like
but
I hate to be that guy, but there is already level scaling in the game. It's just they decided not to put it at that point of the game. It's
yeah,
pure laziness.
yeah, it's just so weird because when I had first gotten the game and beaten it, I was like, okay, let's maybe I could do a challenge where like I beat all the gym leaders in reverse order and try to figure out how I can do that. And then I went online and it was like, oh wait, I can't do that, because if I try to do that, I'm gonna get my shit kicked in.
Along with getting your shit kicked in, like it'll be a hard challenge at first, but then it's just gonna get like easier and easier as time goes on.
Exactly, so it won't even be like a good challenge.
No,
And
I
and
agree.
I
but at least there is some amounts of difficulty in Scarlet and Violet with its uh sort of like, I don't know if it's post game, but the climax of the story within Area Zero, that fight was actually, the final fight in that area was actually pretty difficult in my opinion if you weren't prepared for it.
I
But
know which one you're talking about. Yeah, the true final boss. I'll
yeah,
give the game this. It has a good final boss in terms of difficulty,
yeah,
but the journey to get there ain't worth it.
it's not. But now we can hop on the in basically the horse that is already a corpse, Pokemon Sword and Shield. And
Yeah,
those games are so insanely easy that it's really it's not good. I remember when they first came out, that people were saying online that you could beat it within like 3 to 4 hours because it was just that short and that easy.
Bro, they say visual novels are the mash the A button experience. Nah.
Pokemon Sword.
Go play yeah, go play those.
Like, I when I first played that game, I legit think the only fight I ever struggled on was the 8th gym leader, purely because it introduced it had a battle format that was different from every other gym leader.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
No,
and I will
that's fair. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, but every other fight in that game is insanely easy. Like, you don't have to think at all. As long as you bring the most basic type advantage, you will win every fight. Not a single Pokemon has something that can, counter it. There's nothing like different about it. Like,
I think you would only have maybe a slight challenge if you like brought a whole team that was completely weak to each gym leader's team. Like,
yeah, like I've done so many challenges in that game because I was like, because there's a part of me that was like, This game is so easy. Maybe there is a way that I can make it hard. I've done countless Nuzlocks of that game. I even did a monotype steel run of that game, which, shouldn't have been as easy as it was because there's a fire gym leader as well as, a water gym leader, which doesn't resist steel, and steel doesn't resist water.
And a fighting gym.
Well, I had
Well, depends on your
I had
version. Yeah,
shield,
yeah.
so I had the ghost gem.
Yeah, never mind.
But it
Yeah.
was easy. It was the easiest challenge I had done yet because of how the DLC works. Because, surprise, surprise, if you get the DLC, you can access this immediately and then go catch you can go catch a Clef Key or any other mono type steel Pokemon, which at the early game is broken because of its stats.
No, I
Because
agree.
and it's just insane how easy that game is. Like, I get Pokemon is not, a supposed to be super difficult, but there have been, points in the past where it has been truly challenging. Like, you obviously have the infamous example of Cynthia, but
Milk tank.
yeah, or Whitney's Miltic. But even in Legends Arceus, like, I think the Volo fight is or like yeah, it's too late. I've already spoiled it. But
Well, the Volo fights are generally challenging.
I was gonna
That
say,
and I'd say some of the totem or not totem. I was thinking of Alola.
yeah, I was gonna
I'd say some of the Island Masters, those can be kind of challenging. That and the final boss can be challenging as well.
I was gonna say I don't know if it's a true final boss or the secret final boss against the Giratina dude, and because I think that fight is generally like one of the hardest fights in Pokemon because of the fact that after you beat their main team, you also have to fight against Giratina, like I think twice.
Legends Arceus had a decent bit of difficulty with it.
Yeah, and
I agree too.
obviously
I
there are. I was going to say, just really quickly, I was just going to say, there obviously are outliers within difficulty in Pokemon, especially in modern Pokemon. Like, for example, in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Ultra Necrozma is probably one of the hardest fights in the series, like, by
agree.
far.
No, that fight is
Ultra Necrozma was
fucking
pretty tough.
insane.
Yeah, but in general, most of those games from, like, Gen 6 onward are really easy, and it makes me sad.
I do wish they could just usually I'm not going to say a difficulty slider could help it, but like even just like a little bit, like bump the levels up. Like it's still not going to help the AIs being pretty stupid and not having anything other than attacking moves most of the times. But I mean, Black and White too did it. They had some difficulty sliders. Well, they were implemented horribly since you could only unlock them later in the game. So
After you
it was
already
pretty
started
ass.
the game, that's fucked.
You could only start easy mode after beating the game on hard mode or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is
it is version exclusive difficulty modes or something.
That's really funny.
That you could trade. It was a really weird system. That's a whole nother topic for another day.
It's fucked up. Holy shit.
To sort of just end on the Pokemon note, I genuinely think that if Pokemon added a choose your difficulty feature, I genuinely think that could really help it because those games really need to be harder sometimes.
Well, I know they're they are it's supposed to be kids games. Damn well probably 70% of the sales for Pokemon are not by kids.
I'd say it's close to maybe
probably 50, but
I was gonna say
so many adults play those games.
Yeah, a lot of people our age still play Pokemon.
That or they grew up with Pokemon and they still want to play it.
And Pokemon is it's built for men.
It's built for men, yeah.
That's not a sex thing. I'm talking grown ass men.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think we've talked about probably one of the easiest franchises out there currently. Let's talk about one of the hardest, that being Souls games.
Oh,
I get a lot of Elden Ring's kind of kicking my ass right now.
Let me cook here. I didn't get to talk about Pokemon or Xenoblade or whatever, because I don't play those games. But for Dark Souls, I have played Elden Ring and I have beat it, and let me just say, that game is one bitch to play because it has one of like the best types of difficulty where it's just you want to win, be better. You don't get to just make it easier. No, be better. You like Elden Ring is probably one of the easier Souls likes too, which is crazy to say.
I
It
mean,
is.
Depends on who you ask.
yeah.
I
I
think
was
it
also
is.
going to say Rivers of Blood.
That gun isn't even
It got
the best of
nerfed.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, there's guns in Elden Ring. Holy shit!
Yo, where do
Yeah.
I get the golden scar in Elden Ring?
You gotta fight the Star Scorched Beast, but you have to kill it backwards.
Aw, dang.
Melania ain't gonna be shit after I get that.
But the FromSoft games do a very good thing where they are like, we are known for our difficulty, and that is what we are going to do for every single game. They don't like pull out difficulty sliders. They don't increase boss health. They don't do anything. It's like all FromSoft games. Is like the entire point is the appeal of the game is the difficulty, and that's why games like. That's why the FromSoft games are popular, or Souls-like games are popular. That's why, like, they they win Game of the Year a lot, even though I only think it's been.
I wouldn't argue that's their entire reason, but like
That's
their
a
philosophy
that's
when
a big,
making the
that is a
game.
big reason that people play because, like, sure, it's got incredible lore, incredible combat, incredible story. Like, a lot of the reason that people pick up the game first off, or stray away from the game for that matter, is because it is a hard game to play.
Yeah, well, I think
no
it
one
not
goes.
having an easy mode adds to it. Like, if you want to beat Melania, you can't just pick easy mode and then win. Like, beating her is a genuine like accomplishment because there's only one difficulty.
Yeah, and that's
Yes.
that's what's like a good that's what's so good about the game is
You feel the
is that
satisfaction from defeating
yeah,
enemies.
you hurt enemies and it's like it just it's like honestly like every time you like fight a boss or fight an enemy it just like it only helps because like you just get this like genuine sense of satisfaction that you don't get from like fighting. I don't know what's like a good example. Fighting fucking Toy Story villain, and sorry, I keep going to, I keep
It's
going
a
to
bad
Kingdom
game.
Hearts.
No, don't worry.
But like Toy Story on like the hardest difficulty, you're not gonna get the same satisfaction as fighting Malekith, dying 6 times, and like throwing your head against a wall to mastering his attacks, mastering his combos, like dodging everything perfectly. It's the perfect type of difficulty because it is one that you can't arbitrarily pass through different like through like normal means. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna go leave, level up, and then come back, and then it's automatically gonna be easier." Yeah, you can level up, come back, and like get more health, get more stuff. But if you can't dodge for shit, you're gonna die.
This is true. And that's what I love about the Souls games is that like yes, they're hard. You are fighting powerful enemies that seem like you have no chance of winning, but there's always that chance that that next run is the run. And that's what I love about these games so much is that they inspire you to keep going. And someone said this in the beginning of the episode, the indomitable will of man will overcome any
Exactly.
struggle. And that
Exactly,
is
and
the
that's
point.
why. And
You
that
first.
is why FromSoft games have like my first FromSoft game was Elden Ring, but that is why I went from playing 0 FromSoft games to playing like 6.
Yeah. They're addictive
Basically all of them.
too.
Yeah.
They're addictive as hell too. Like because most of their games as well are also really well designed. So it's just like it's that difficulty but in a new setting with new gameplay and everything. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's really hard too. It's not like NES games that we've mentioned before, where like they put a bunch of bullshit challenges in front of you that are meant to just frustrate you, and like be unfair. Like Elden Ring is hard, but it's never felt like completely unfair. Don't get me wrong, there are bits that do feel unfair with some attacks, like maybe being scaled up a little too high, but it never feels like they gave me something that wasn't a fair challenge. Because usually if I was struggling too much, I could just go out into the world and like explore and then find some equipment to maybe help me defeat that hard boss.
Yeah, the games always reward you for experimenting and just trying to get better. Like Elden Ring especially does reward you a lot for experimenting. And it's why I think it's one of the easier Souls games, but I also think it's the best Souls game to start on, because the nature of an open world game is that of limitless possibility. So being able to find specific items in the open world is so useful for people trying to like get through a boss. Or the best way to look at it is in Elden Ring, if you're stuck on a boss, cool. There are 15 other things that are near you that you can do. Come back to it later when you're stronger. And that's what's awesome
Don't
about
fight
it.
the tree sentinel for 5 hours.
The nature of it being non-linear is just beautiful to me because you can do so much with it. Not so much as the other Souls games because they are more linear, but there is still the idea of you can go back and do whatever to make yourself stronger within the
Yeah,
past
I think that's
games.
what makes it definitely more approachable though. Because like if there's a bullshit boss in like let's say Dark Souls, I'm assuming if I get to it and I need to get past it, there's not really much else I can do. Elden Ring, though, I can just go fucking wherever I want and then come back to the boss.
For the second half of the game, I would say yes, but well, actually, not really. The first Dark Souls, at least, is kind of a unique case because it's actually like it's not open world, but it's a very open game because there's so many like it's like a how do I describe this?
Like God of War.
Yeah, kind of like it's
Like
a
God
network
of War is an open world, but it has like enough areas to mess around with.
Open zone
yes,
gameplay.
that's actually the best way to put it. I'm not gonna lie. It just has a lot of different areas that you can go to at any time to like do whatever you want.
Oh yeah,
But there is like a linear progression. But
gotcha.
yeah, in terms of like story and whatnot, but like for different areas and whatnot, you have a lot of choice in what you go into, and that's just God. That's why I love Souls games so much. Is that they're challenging as fuck. Don't get me wrong. Oh my lord, they are difficult. But oh god, when you beat that boss that you've been struggling with for the longest time, God, it just makes you feel so good. And the game makes sure that you feel good as well by rewarding you very well. Whether it's giving you a shit ton of runes to level up, or even a new weapon that you can play around with that becomes a part of your main build.
I was so happy when I beat that stupid draconic tree sentinel.
Oh,
Because that thing's
hated,
lightning attack was bullshit.
I hated the draconic tree sentinel, and I couldn't
Everything
get
else
to
was
I
fine, but
couldn't
its
get to
damn lightning
Lendo.
attack one-shotted me.
Dude,
And it comes out super fast.
dude, that is nothing compared to the second half of the game. You are in for some hell.
Yeah. I mean,
Lean
I'm not
can
gonna
attest
act
to
like it
that.
was the hardest challenge I've ever had to overcome, but it was something pretty difficult.
Oh god, wait till you fight some of the later bosses. Ooh, boy, god, those are rough. But I think it's about time we close the episode a little bit. We're getting to that point. But I want to just start with some concluding points about difficulty. Um, if y'all don't mind, I'll start with mine because I'm very passionate about this specific topic. I think difficulty in video games is one of the main reasons why it is so engaging. It's because you're constantly having to be engaged in the game to be with challenge comes engagement. By overcoming challenges and feeling satisfied, you're engaging more with the game. And that's why I hate all of the like journalism BS about there should be hard modes in video games. Because
Wait,
I
you
am
mean
of the
easy
belief.
modes?
Yeah, yes, easy modes. I'm sorry, thank you.
I was
I
about
do
to
not.
say.
I think there should not be easy modes for games that are intended to be a certain difficulty. The Souls games, I do not think they should have an easy difficulty because they are meant to be the way they are. And any like changes to the bosses or enemies are like patches. You know what I mean? They're not going to be through difficulty changes
Yeah.
or any of that. And I
Yeah, well, I
appreciate
kind of agree with you that.
What's up?
I was just gonna say on with that too. Like, I don't think every game needs to be the most accessible because they always argue accessibility. But like, if Elden Ring like is way too hard for you and you don't want to play it, there's millions of games out on Steam right now and on other consoles. You can find something similar that will suit your taste. There's plenty of games out there.
I also think they're just misusing the term of accessibility because if they can play the game, they can access it. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm thinking accessibility options to be more stuff like, colorblind modes.
Oh, who would need that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like
Or
people
stuff to
who
help
are
like
like
deaf players,
deaf
like visual
players, or
aids.
oh yeah, like or maybe amputees.
Yeah, options like those. Those are what I see as accessibility options, not easy mode because you can't get good.
Exactly. But yeah, I guess with my concluding point, I just want to state the fact that like I do think that games should provide a challenge. That does not mean that all games need to be hard. Some of my favorite games are pretty easy, don't get me wrong. But I just think that if a good thing to keep your audience engaged is just have a higher difficulty if that's what the game needs. But I do think difficulty is something that's very important to combat in video games, extremely important.
Definitely.
Yeah, what about y'all?
I
But
would agree. I think for me, mostly difficult games are more fun because I enjoy the challenge that it brings. But like, I feel like a difficulty in a game is something that like kind of goes unnoticed a lot of the time, where people are just kind of like, they don't appreciate difficulty in games. Whenever like a game like a game like Mario shouldn't ever be super difficult because it's like a game that needs accessibility for every age, and like you can do like it's never going to be like a super difficult game. Like Mario Wonder is a good example. It has difficult levels, has easy levels. It is a choice, and I think that's a big point that people miss out. Difficulty can be a choice, but buying a game is also a choice. So that's why I think that like difficulty is dependent on game, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I
great
agree.
point.
Uh,
I think for
yeah,
me, my concluding point would mostly be just difficulty should be a very big focus in the game because, like, without any push and pull, like, a lot of aspects in your game are just not going to feel worth it at all. Like, a lot of times that, like, getting through work and, like, getting home feels so valuable is, like, because how grueling of a day it could be to get through your, like, 8 to 10, 12-hour shift. That's what makes it rewarding. So like in a game, like getting through those tough challenges and eventually like getting the prize for that, that's the push and pull you need. You need to like have a decent enough challenge to where your rewards don't just feel tacked on.
yeah, no, I agree. What about you, Conroy?
So this is obviously my own opinion, but I personally enjoy more like not easier games but more middling within the difficulty sphere. I don't really like super difficult games for just personal reasons. But I do agree that difficulty is important. If you like going through a game and never experiencing any sort of struggle or pushback is not fun. It would really just feel like you're watching a bunch of cutscenes back to back. So I definitely do agree that difficulty is one of the most important things within gaming, like making a game. And obviously it depends game to game on what that difficulty is, but I that's just my sort of resting on it.
Yeah, I get that. Difficult games is not for everyone, and no way are we saying that. Oh, you don't like hard games. Well, you're a loser. No, people have their own taste, and that's okay. It's just that people enjoy people enjoy video games for different reasons. It's just that like only we can enjoy the games in our in our perspective. Only we know what kind of games we like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think too, only the developers know the types of games they're making. So to reiterate, that is why Elden Ring should not have an easy mode. Because if you want it to have an easy mode, either go mod it or go find a different game to play. Maybe that game in specific is not just for you. Because not all games need to be for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. But y'all got anything else? Because I think it's about time we wrap up.
No, I think we're good.
Bro or Liam?
I'm good.
All I'm going to say is that if you like this video, smash your controller into the like button like you smash it right after dying in Elden Ring.
Subscribe. Press that subscribe button if you like this kind of content and want to see more from it. We know that some of y'all aren't subscribbled. We need those good points with Susan Wojcicki or whatever her name is.
Even though she's not the
Well,
CEO.
it's not Susan anymore. It's not been for a while.
I know, but her impact on YouTube has been so big that I still call it Susan.
Well, I guess she is more memorable than whoever the hell the current guy is.
There's no telling.
I can't remember his name.
There's no telling. But leave a comment down below and tell us what your favorite boss is, or what's a really big difficulty spike in a game that you just could not get over or were just super pissed off about. But with that being said, guys, this has been our episode on video game difficulty. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.